for our next segment, we're going to do one with trees. Now this is what we're going to do the actual paper product on, is trees that look like they're going back in space. We're going to use the monochromatic color scheme again to create the atmospheric perspective, and we're also going to use size as a way to show perspective. So the trees that are in the front are larger and then they get smaller as they go back. So size is another way to show perspective. So I'm going to start with a new page, and so I hit my plus sign, and I'm going to start with my foreground, but first I want to change my tools. I'm going to select my marker, get a black thin line, okay, go to my page, and start my bottom layer right here. And I bet a lot of you guys had problems with the paint leaking over into the other side. One thing you can do is make sure you start on the outside of your iPad screen when you start the line, and also you can come in and create a vertical edge with the black line, and that keeps that paint contained. Okay, so here's where we want to start our tree. Now we have practiced trees over and over. We've practiced them on paper, practiced different types of trees, and for this assignment we're going to do the winter tree with no leaves. So I'm going to start my branch. Remember, they Y off of the main branches and come back in to the tree trunk. Come back into the tree trunk, go up. Keep that tree trunk thin. If it starts getting like a cactus, you want to make sure you're bringing that back in. Okay? That was a real quick little tree. Next, we're going to do my middle ground, and I even cross over a little bit right there just to make sure that I'm not going to have that paint leaking in. This is just practice. Okay, and for the next layer, it gets a little trickier because I have to stop and go, but I want a mid-sized tree. I draw the same way, oops, I'm going to fix that. A little bit smaller tree in my middle layer. Make sure I close up any of those little gaps so the paint doesn't leak through. And then I'm going to put another range back here. I've got room right here for another little small tree. I'll bring that tree trunk up. I guess another way to do it would be just go straight through it, and then you could come back and erase inside the limbs if that's easier. Okay, but this tree is a little tiny tree back here in the background. And finish. Okay, so now I'm going to go and use the same technique I did for the very simplified landscape. I'm going to go to my paint bucket, select paint bucket. I think I'll go with blues. I'm going to go with kind of a turquoise blue this time. Okay, so I've selected my color. So remember, the color selection is on the outside wheel and the tints and shades are in the inside square. Tints are when you add white to the color, shades are when you add black to the color. I'm not going to change the outer wheel anymore. I'm going to do all my changes right here inside the tints and shades. So I'm going to start with a dark teal down here. I've got my paint bucket and fill that in. Hopefully it'll stay right in that area. If I have any leaks, I'll have to, oh, got several leaks. I'm going to have to go back and switch over to my, let's undo that. Switch over to my, and this is where it requires a whole lot of patience, getting all these leaks filled in. I'm going to guess it was on this side, and I'm just going to go do a whole line all the way up to fill in anything I got. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side and see if that helps. You can barely see that line. All right. Let's try that again. Paint bucket, got my turquoise selected, get a deep turquoise, paint, and try that again. Yep. Okay, then I'm going to go with a little bit lighter shade. Actually, that's a little bit darker. I think I'll go darker. I'm working in the shade section right now. That's a little bit of a difference right there. Now I'm going to go a little bit more. Nope. Undo that. Okay, that's a lot lighter, and so I have to fill it. Uh-oh, got a little spill right there down here at the bottom. So I'm going to come back. Remember, patience will result with good art. So I'm going to close those up, go back, still have my turquoise selected. This time I wanted to go right about it there. Oh, don't have my paint bucket. Get my paint bucket, fill it in. Still got a little leak there. I'm going to keep going. Something real light for the sky. There, good. And fill in all these little extra spaces. Now I want you to go one step further, okay? So I've got my trees, I've got turquoise, but now I want us to think again. I'm going to save this so we can go back and look at the color wheel. I want us to think about the color wheel, think about color theory we've done. You guys built a color wheel on your iPad, so if you'll pull that up. And for your tree color, I want you to do monochromatic. Again, that means all the colors, all the trees are going to be the same color. But this time I want you to use the complementary color of whatever you did for the background. So I did kind of a blue-green. I can count at either one of these. If you use the more complex color wheel with 16 colors that we did, you'll have the intermediates in there that you can use. But for the complementary color, I want to find its opposite, remember? So the opposite of a blue-green is going to be reddish-orange right here. So I'm just going to go jump over to the other side. That's the color I'm going to work with. So I'm going to go back to that tree I was working on, edit, pull it back up. So I want red-orange for my trees, and I want to use the atmospheric perspective again. Remember, that is brighter, stronger colors in the front, and they get grayer and duller as they go back to make things look like they're going back in space. So I'm going to go across the color wheel, select this red-orange. So for my front tree, I'm going to go with this darker red-orange. Then for the next one, use the tints and shades block. I'm going to go up a shade or a tint. That didn't make much of a difference, so I'm going to go back and change that a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to, in my furthest tree back, I'm going to go grayer and lighter still, and that's just going to make it look more like it's going back in space. Okay? So after you get this done, I want you to save that. And I want you to upload that image on Edmodo because that's where I will take it to grade from. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd like everybody to get started on the atmospheric trees with the monochromatic color scheme.